Welcome to another episode of I'm Dying to Tell You. This is Dr. Mark Goulston, and I'm recording this series because I don't think I'm going to be dying anytime soon, but probably sooner than I plan. And with that kind of hanging over my head, I've been waking up every morning around 3:30, and I come up with 4 or 5 episodes to share with you. And probably because one of these days I'm not going to wake up at 3:30 ever. And what I wanted to share with you today is, why is it that entrepreneurial marriages with children fail so often? And I'm bringing this up because I belong to an amazing entrepreneurial community of men. It meets on Saturdays, and it's not so much that women aren't allowed, it's that it's Saturdays. And some of these men have the time to do this, while often women, mothers, are there with their children. And I think I may have some insight into why entrepreneurial marriages with children fail. We all chase dopamine. We all chase pleasure. And you can get to pleasure in a couple ways. Entrepreneurs get to pleasure and dopamine through adrenaline with a little twist of testosterone. Adrenaline is excitement. A lot of entrepreneurs have ADD, and when you have adrenaline flowing, that's natural Adderall. Keeps you focused, keeps you online, keeps you excited. And it's wonderful, and it's a great way to fuel that dopamine, and then throw in some testosterone, and you're ready to be aggressive, and you're ready to be powerful. And so there you are, you're married, and early on, there may be some adoration and loving each other. But then what happens is, if you're an entrepreneur, you go back to your firstborn, which is your business and your startup. And you and your wife are doing fine. And when it looks like you haven't had much time together, you go take a trip, and that's pretty exciting. And it's probably more excitement for both of you, fueling that dopamine. But then when a entrepreneurial wife becomes a mother, what happens is, first of all, there's a huge surge in her of oxytocin, which enables her to bond with that infant. But the experience of a young mother, when she's breastfeeding that infant, and she's looking into that infant's eyes, and in the first few weeks or maybe a month or two, the infant's eyes are just a blob. But there's a point at which, when that infant is feeding and looking up at you and starts to smile as that infant is feeding from you, it creates such a bond of oxytocin. Many women have never had that experience before. Even when they fell in love, it wasn't as powerful as this. And then what happens is that bond is so powerful and so central and so much a part of that mom's identity that she will often look at her entrepreneurial husband through different eyes. And what she found kind of exciting about his business and good for him and interested in him, she becomes less interested, because this discovery of what it's like to emotionally connect like this with an infant, with a baby, is just overwhelming. I have 2 daughters, and they've blessed me with 4 children, and they were very corporate. In fact, I was concerned, well, they seem to be very career-oriented. I hope they like being moms. And when they decided to do that, they were kind of into it. But then when they had each of their 2 children, the bond between them and their children, I love watching it. I love seeing the adoration between them and the connection between them and their children. And their careers suddenly became a job. So instead of living to work as driven career women, It's now working to live. And a lot of these big companies aren't that loyal to you, and you work around it when you're career oriented. You just figure that's what's going on. But when they're not loyal to you and you have this child that you're bonded to, you're not that loyal to them. You try and do a good job because you want to keep your job, but that's really tough to compete with for the entrepreneurial husband. Now, that husband will love that child. And much later on, when that child, much later on, starts to say, Daddy, Daddy, and that entrepreneurial father melts, but that's down the road. And so, yes, dad will love that child, but that baby has sibling rivalry with the entrepreneurial husband's company. And what happens is because his wife, the mother of their child, is so bonding to the child, she bonds to the child, and he goes off to work and he bonds with his company. He gets excited when he gets that first or second round of financing, but this can really create a rift. And that's why I think it's important, if you're husband and wife, to at least once a month, maybe every 2 weeks, have a scheduled dinner, just the two of you. And what you focus on is anything that gets in the way of either of you putting a smile on the other person's face. That's the whole purpose of getting together, because once upon a time, when you first met and you fell in love, you put a smile on each other's face that went right to each of your cores. And so what you do in that meeting is you talk about any and everything that's not putting a smile on either of your face. There's rules where each person tries not to yell. If one person gets defensive and yells, well, they've got to keep yelling until they're talking from the hurt and fear underneath. What's the hurt and fear? Is our relationship over? We don't seem to like each other. We seem to be annoyed with each other. And so you make sure you keep talking till that comes up. Then you say to each other, going forward, what do I need to consistently do that's positive? And what do I need to stop doing completely that annoys the heck out of you, so that I can put a smile back on your face? And then you top it off by apologizing to the other person for something, looking in their eyes like I'm looking in yours, and then telling them about something that you still love about them. Telling them about something that still makes you very glad and happy that you're married to them. So hope that's helpful, and you can use that if you're in an entrepreneurial marriage. And we will see you again on a future episode of I'm Dying to Tell You.